Welcome to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Leanie. Today we're unpacking the latest slate of legislation moving through Congress, from energy and the environment to veterans, education, and tax policy. We'll explain what each measure does, how it travels through the legislative process, and why it matters to everyday Americans.
Let's start with a symbolic but potentially influential piece of legislation. Senate Resolution 536, which designates December 2, 2025, as World Nuclear Energy Day.
A Senate resolution isn't a law. It's a formal expression of the Senate's position. In this case, the resolution aims to raise public awareness of nuclear power's role in low-carbon electricity generation. Historically, the U.S. celebrated World Nuclear Energy Day in 2005, and the International Atomic Energy Agency has promoted the date since 2006. By codifying the date again, Congress hopes to encourage educational events, industry outreach, and perhaps bipartisan dialogue on nuclear safety and waste disposal, issues that affect communities near existing plants, and the broader climate agenda.
Moving from symbolism to land management, we have two bills addressing North Dakota trust lands. Senate Bill 1084, the North Dakota Trust Lands Completion Act of 2025, and House Bill 2252, the same act for 2026.
Both bills seek to finalize the transfer of certain federal trust lands to the state of North Dakota. Trust lands were originally set aside for the benefit of Native American tribes and later for state use. Over the decades, incomplete conveyances have left a patchwork of jurisdiction. Completing the transfer would give the state clearer authority to manage the land for agriculture, mineral development, or conservation, potentially boosting local tax revenue and job creation. The bills will first be referred to the House and Senate Natural Resources Committees, where they'll be debated, possibly amended, and then reported out for floor consideration.
Next, we have a pair of identical measures concerning the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, Senate Bill 1142, and House Bill 2371, both titled the Scarper Ridge Golden Gate National Recreation Area Boundary Adjustment Act.
Boundary adjustments are common when federal agencies need to incorporate adjacent lands for better ecosystem management or public access. Scarper Ridge is a specific parcel that, if added, could expand hiking trails and protect additional shoreline. The legislation would amend the National Park Service's statutory boundaries, requiring coordination with local governments and possibly the California State Park System. The bills will likely go through the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee and the House Natural Resources Committee, where environmental impact statements may be reviewed.
Shifting to oversight, House Bill 6507, the DHS Grants Accountability Act, is a straightforward accountability measure.
This bill would tighten reporting requirements for Department of Homeland Security grant recipients. It mandates annual performance reports, audits, and a public database of awardees. The goal is to ensure taxpayer dollars for border security, cyber defense, and disaster response are used efficiently. The House Homeland Security Committee will scrutinize the bill, and if passed, the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee will take it up. For everyday Americans, stronger oversight could mean more effective use of funds that protect communities from threats.
On the social safety net front, House Bill 8246 proposes to let certain students, specifically those whose student aid index is 0 or negative, qualify for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, benefits under the Food and Nutrition Act of 2008.
The Student Aid Index measures a student's expected family contribution. A 0 or negative index indicates very low or no expected contribution, often reflecting severe financial hardship. By extending SNAP eligibility, the bill aims to reduce food insecurity among college students, a growing concern. Recent surveys show roughly 30% of students experience hunger. The bill will be reviewed by the House Education and Labor Committee, where testimony from university administrators and anti-hunger advocates will shape the final language.
Tax policy shows up in House Bill 7944, which seeks to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to apply floor plan financing interest rules to semi-trailers.
Floor plan financing is a method dealers use to borrow against inventory, commonly applied to automobiles. Extending these rules to semi-trailers would standardize interest deductions for trucking companies that finance their trailer fleets. This could lower operating costs for small carriers, potentially translating into lower shipping rates for consumers. The bill will be examined by the House Ways and Means Committee, which will assess revenue impacts before the Senate Finance Committee takes it up.
Environmental health is front and center with House Bill 8016, which aims to phase out production of non-essential uses of per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, and to prohibit releases of all PFAS.
PFAS are forever chemicals used in firefighting foam, non-stick cookware, and water-repellent fabrics. Scientific studies link them to cancer, immune disruption, and developmental issues. The bill proposes a two-track approach. First, a schedule to eliminate non-essential PFAS production. Second, a blanket prohibition on releases into air, water, or soil. If enacted, manufacturers would need to reformulate products, and cleanup programs could receive new funding. The House Energy and Commerce Committee will likely hold hearings with EPA officials and industry representatives to balance health benefits against economic impacts.
The ALERT Act, House Bill 7613, is listed without a subtitle, but the name suggests an emphasis on emergency alerts.
While the text isn't provided, historically, alert-type legislation has aimed to improve the nation's emergency alert system, enhancing wireless alerts for natural disasters, Amber Alerts, and public safety warnings. Such a bill would likely amend the Communications Act to require faster dissemination of alerts to mobile devices, benefiting anyone who relies on timely warnings during hurricanes, tornadoes, or other crises.
Veteran affairs are addressed by House Bill 8224, the National Veteran Strategy Act of 2026.
This act would require the Department of Veterans Affairs to develop a comprehensive, multi-year strategy covering healthcare, benefits, and transition services. It could streamline access to mental health care, improve the VA's claims processing, and coordinate with state agencies. The House Veterans Affairs Committee will evaluate the bill, and its passage could directly affect the roughly 20 million veterans and their families.
Digital readiness is the focus of House Bill 8243, the Virtual Readiness Act of 2026.
Though details are sparse, virtual readiness typically refers to preparing government agencies and the private sector for remote work, cyber training, and digital infrastructure. The bill may authorize funding for secure video conferencing tools, broadband expansion in underserved areas, and training programs, issues that became prominent during the COVID-19 pandemic and remain relevant for disaster response and workforce flexibility.
Health coverage gets a boost with House Bill 8242, the Health Coverage Tax Credit Reauthorization Act of 2026.
The Health Coverage Tax Credit, HCTC, provides a refundable tax credit to eligible individuals, often workers displaced by trade agreements or retirees receiving pension benefits. Reauthorizing the credit would extend financial assistance for purchasing health insurance, potentially lowering premiums for thousands of families. The bill will travel through the House Ways and Means Committee, where revenue effects are analyzed before Senate Finance review.
Science and technology are represented by House Bill 8237, the Quantum Instrumentation for Science and Engineering Act.
This act would likely fund the development and procurement of quantum-enabled instruments for research universities and federal labs. By supporting quantum sensors, clocks, and communication devices, the legislation aims to keep the United States at the forefront of a technology that could revolutionize navigation, cryptography, and materials science. The House Science, Space, and Technology Committee would oversee the bill, possibly coordinating with the National Science Foundation.
Finally, House Bill 8244, the Neighborhood Skies Act of 2026, appears to address local concerns about the night sky.
While the exact language isn't provided, Neighborhood Skies suggests regulation of light pollution, drone activity, or low-altitude flight paths over residential areas. Reducing excessive lighting can improve public health, less disruption of circadian rhythms, and enhance astronomical observation. If the bill includes standards for outdoor lighting fixtures, it could lead municipalities to adopt darker sky ordinances, benefiting both residents and the environment.
That's a whirlwind tour of the bills on the floor. Before we close, let's briefly walk through how a bill becomes law so listeners can follow the process.
Sure. A bill is first introduced in either the House or Senate, except revenue bills, which must start in the House. It's assigned a number, like House Bill 8016, and referred to a relevant committee. The committee may hold hearings, amend the text, and then vote to report it. Once reported, the full chamber debates, amends, and votes. If passed, it moves to the other chamber for a parallel process. Any differences are resolved in a conference committee. The final version is sent to the president, who can sign it, veto it, or let it become law after 10 days if Congress is in session. Resolutions, like Senate Resolution 536, follow a simpler path. They're adopted by the chamber and don't require the president's signature.
Understanding that pipeline helps us see why some of these measures are still in committee, while others have already cleared one chamber.
Absolutely. For our listeners, keep an eye on a few key items. The PFAS Phase-Out Bill, House Bill 8016, as it moves through energy and commerce. The SNAP eligibility expansion for students, House Bill 8246, in education and labor, and the DHS Grants Accountability Act, House Bill 6507, in Homeland Security. Their outcomes could directly affect health, food security, and public safety in the months ahead.
That wraps today's Capital Catch-Up. Thanks for joining us.
Stay tuned for updates as these bills progress. And remember, your vote and voice matter in shaping these policies. Until next time, goodbye.